You're listening to the Paranormal Patio Podcast with Jason and John. Pull up a chair.
Hey, it is Jason here, and I am joined by my partner in crime.
Yes, I am John.
Jason and John sitting in the Paranormal Patio, sort of. I am in a physical patio at the moment due to the pandemic just down the street.
And I am in a darkened room right now.
A darkened room in an undisclosed location.
Yes.
John, it's a pleasure to be with you tonight, as always.
Yes. It has been a while.
It has been a while. For those of you who don't know, John and I did some podcasting several years ago and had a great time. Took a long break and decided to get back in on it a little bit. And I think we've got something interesting tonight, John.
I think we do too. What's up?
Man, it's going to get deep.
Oh, I'm ready.
As a wise man once told me in a podcast, we'll get deep.
We'll get deep.
Literally deep. So tonight we're talking about possibility of underground alien bases. What that might mean for those of us surface dwellers. And is there, or has there been, or could there potentially be, a war beneath our feet, John?
Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to throw out there might be a little bit of a curveball.
Okay.
There is in the in this sort of space that we're talking about right now, there is a theory that it's basically a conspiracy on top of a conspiracy, that there are some people who are wanting to influence all of us, that the aliens are all out to get us and that they are all bad. That they use all kinds of sources in the entertainment industry, movies, books, television shows, even news media, things like this, and that this has been building up for decades.
Wow.
And so there's a curveball for you. Okay?
I am on board.
But I mean, going into this, you know, I guess my take on it is I have that part in my mind too. Like, is this true or is this not true about, you know, the aliens are out to get us, or are they not? I don't know.
So, in a subtopic of the conspiracy on a conspiracy.
Right.
According to my research into extraterrestrials in the last 6 months anyway, you mentioned that all the aliens are bad and all the aliens are a little bit with the theories that I'm operating on, that there's a long-standing war between beings that come from Orion and beings that come from Sirius.
Yes.
There is a good and bad side.
Yes.
But it seems like the bad side has been more, what's the word I'm looking for, willing to interject themselves into our affairs than the good side is.
Yes. I'm very familiar with that. Yes.
So that's another level that we're not going to get into on this episode, but potentially in the future.
Yeah. Yes.
Absolutely. What I wanted to start off talking about tonight was, this is a very sensitive issue, okay? But Phil Schneider, some of our listeners may be familiar, and if not, we'll catch you up here in a second. A lot of people have discredited Phil before his death for coming out and saying some of these claims that he's made And do I believe one way or the other? Right now, at this stage of the podcast, I do not have an opinion. I have information for and against Phil Schneider. But to start off, so Phil Schneider passed away in, it would have been the early 90s if I recall. Does that sound right?
I think you're close there, yeah.
And I say passed away because technically he was ruled as death by suicide, but we'll get into that in just a minute. So Phil Schneider, 17 years on a black budget structural engineer geologist contract, is deeply involved in building if you believe his claims, building the military or pseudo-military structure at Dulce, New Mexico in 1979. He says that these underground military bases are built by drilling 4 large holes straight down, vertical shafts, and then connecting them with tunnels. And these vertical shafts can be as much as 2.5 miles deep. And that's a lot of hole.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I mean, 2.5 miles, if you're driving down the road, doesn't seem like very much. But if you're looking at a straight down hole, that's some distance.
I've been down in mines myself, actually, when I was younger, and it's a strange feeling, and I couldn't imagine working that deep. You know,
That's deep.
That in itself is a strange feeling.
You know, I told you we were going to get deep here.
We are getting literally deep, yes.
So they're working at Dulce, right? And the equipment keeps coming up broken, so they have to send men down, see what's going on. Okay? Now, he knew something was going on when there were a bunch of Green Berets and Black Berets in the construction camp. But he goes down, and about 15 feet away from him at the base of where they were drilling one of these vertical holes, he says he sees a 7-foot-tall gray alien. Now, he reaches for a pistol that for some reason he says he's armed with. Now, as an engineer and a geologist drilling a hole, I'm not sure why he would have, 1, been armed with a pistol, and 2, not thought it odd that he was being armed with a pistol.
Well, yeah, I mean, that would be, especially not saying anything, you know. I mean, it would be one thing if we're going to arm you because of some type of wildlife.
Sure.
You know, yeah, especially not saying anything.
So, he reaches for his pistol. He shoots this alien. Kills it. And another alien comes up and rubs its chest, and this blue beam of light or electricity or some force hits Phil, opens him up, and he says that later he found out it actually burned off his toenails, similar to what would happen if you were struck by lightning. A Green Beret that's coming down shoves him in a basket, takes him back to the surface, and later that Green Beret ended up dying in something similar there at Dulce. He goes on to say that 66 different service agents lost their lives because the U.S. government lied and did not mention an alien threat underground, and that there was evidence that these aliens had been there for 400 to 500 years previous.
Mm-hmm.
He spent a lot of time out on the road telling this and similar stories towards the end of his life.
Yes, the thing that gets me though about that is 400 to 500 years for them to be underground is in alien time, I guess, isn't very long.
Sure.
Well, you know what I'm saying. But yeah. I mean, I'm with him. I'm I guess hypothetically going with this story here, but it seems to me that Maybe according to him, they've been there for, I don't know, it just seems to me that that's not a long time from everything that I've read.
Sure. I mean, you consider if you were to colonize, Mars, for example, as a human being, I mean, it would take, thousands of years. But who's to say?
Well,
I mean, it's all theoretical.
right. And, if you're going back to Egyptian time or something, you're talking many, many, many more years. But
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But it could be, it could be that area, that they have been in that area particular for, 400 or 500 years. I
Sure.
would go with that.
Okay. So moving on.
I don't,
Go ahead.
the only thing I will, one more thing. I mean, it seems like to me that, I'm putting myself in his spot, like you said, I'm going there and I'm doing this and they arm me. I would definitely ask, okay, if you're going to work underground and they arm you, I'm sure that most people would say, yes, may I inquire as to why you are arming me?
Right.
But,
right. Absolutely.
But I can see where you would just say, oh, okay, sure. Thanks. And go down. I don't know.
All right. Well, let's dig a little deeper here.
Okay.
So there's this book called The UFO Highway. I don't remember who wrote this book, but in there's an interview with this guy who calls himself Colonel X as a pseudonym here. And he verifies that Schneider was there because he had certain details right in his stories, things that only a few people would have known about. However, he does say that Schneider fabricated and elaborated on his true level of involvement, but he was there. And although that he did kind of tweak his story a little bit about his involvement during the 1979 event, he was truthful on many elements of his story. Although there are still lots of areas he discussed that were complete fabrications. He lied, and he doesn't know why. So who knows? But according to Schneider, mega bases at the time, this was in 1995, said that the mega base constructions across the country ate 28% of the gross national product on building underground solely. So that's a lot of money. And he said that alien takeover is a serious threat, and it would pull the world into one world government, which is a whole nother conspiracy.
Yes.
So he is going on the road after all this is over, like I said, in the early 90s, and he's telling this story to people, whoever will listen. And he also mentions that 11 of his close personal friends had been murdered and 8 of them had been called suicides, though he had no reason to believe that any of them were suicides. And these were all people that were involved with this that had taken to giving their version of the story to the general public, so to speak. And in particular, this guy, Ron Rummel, a friend of his, was found dead of a gunshot to the head in a park, I believe. And I might be mixing a couple of stories up, but I'm wanting to say that he supposedly shot himself in the head twice.
Ooh.
And this guy, Ron Rummel, wrote the Alien Digest newsletter about UFO cover-ups.
Mm-hmm.
So that fuels this speculation. 1996, I guess, is when Phil is found dead. Cause of death is initially marked as unknown, but it's found to be that he's actually strangled by his catheter hose.
Oh, man.
And he is face down in his own wheelchair. Now, I've seen the pictures, and they are grisly, and I don't know how a person could wrap a catheter hose around their neck and tie it in a knot. That's some serious dedication to wanting to be dead.
Right. I would think so. Yes. You hate to laugh, but yes.
So officially, death by suicide. Now here's something a little interesting. So wherever he was living at the time, the state holds any autopsy samples for 1 year. And you have a year if you want to claim these samples. At 11 months into this year, his either ex-wife or wife, I'm not sure if they were divorced before he passed, I think he was, goes to collect these samples, and they have mysteriously gone missing. Now, is this just her and his surviving family, playing into the whole conspiracy thing? I don't know. That's their story.
Right.
And originally also his obituary is printed in the newspaper that was not submitted by his wife or daughter with the cause of death as a stroke, which I find very interesting as well. So there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, there is. Where things like this get interesting is the point where they publicly reveal.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it gets really, I think, sad, because if someone actually had this happen to them, and to publicly reveal it would be a huge thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a difficult thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then to have this happen to him, and then I guess his wife then, coming out public and saying all of this is just double, triple, quadruple.
Yeah.
And to me, why, especially her, why would she want to do something like that? Why would anybody want to come out publicly with something like that after, he was killed in such an awful way?
Right.
I don't think you would. I don't think for any amount of money, and it wouldn't be a lot of money she would get off of books or whatever.
Right, and I don't know that she's even attempted to get any money from it.
Right, I haven't found anything, no. I mean, that's, to me, that's what makes that story very interesting.
Absolutely. And to add another layer of interesting on top of this, you may or may not be familiar with Phil Schneider's dad, Oscar Schneider. He worked in the Navy and a bunch of other military organizations. He had top secret clearance. He was a master machinist. Phil is on record as saying that he could take a block of metal and make watch parts. He was so good of a machinist.
Wow. Yeah.
Allegedly, Oscar was involved with the Philadelphia experiment.
Uh-oh.
And Phil had papers from his dad after his dad had passed away with some really interesting stuff in it. I mean, it's a topic that you could look into for the Philadelphia experiment if you were ever so inclined. It's not real hard to find. And his wife verified these documents as well before and after his death, that these were real. They found them in a trunk or something in his dad's house.
That would make, I think people wonder if there's, family connections with all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, because he's not the only one that has like family connections with experiences similar, or maybe a little bit. Yeah, that's interesting.
I mean, at the same time, on the opposite side of the argument, you could argue that there's already this air of mystery around his father's work, who's obviously a well-respected, military man. Mm-hmm. And as a son of someone in that position, if you had, I'm not accusing this, but if you had some sort of, mental instability and you wanted to just be a part of something that you knew your window was closed, could you not, fabricate your own mystery just with the drive of trying to be like your dad, you know what I mean?
Well, you could. I mean, honestly, you could do that. But to me, that's where, this guy's dead. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, one of the most interesting parts of this is his wife, because did the son say, okay, I've got to come up with something here because I have nothing in my life, and then he dies, and then after he dies, his wife comes out with all of this. Why would she do that?
Oh yeah, you're right.
Why
maybe for their daughter's sake, to try to not let her think her dad was crazy.
That would be a reason. But I mean, you would have to have some kind of reason. It wouldn't, I don't think the reason, I really don't think with her, the reason would be like, okay, I'm going to create a mystery for me too.
Right.
Especially after he's dead and all that. I can't see, and there wouldn't, from what I've read and stuff, authors like that and books like that get practically nothing anymore.
Right.
It's not very little money unless you're a big time author.
Sure.
But so why would she want to do that? That's my point. That's my point in the whole thing. If someone were to ask me, do you think this is true? I would point out to the wife, and that's be the first question. I would say, well, I'm beginning to think that there's really something here, because why would the wife want to bring all of this up after all this has happened?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's totally valid reasoning. Well,
didn't aim to throw you off.
No, absolutely not. But moving on from Phil Schneider in maintaining our road underground, there's also something else that I came up with that was fairly interesting, and I've seen some unclassified, declassified documentation to back this up. Okay, so the TOT organization, TODT. This is pre or just around World War II in Germany. This guy Fritz Todt, and the German Autobahn. He worked for Hitler under this Todt organization as an engineer of some sort. He dies in a plane crash in 1942. And his protege, Franz Dorsch, takes over a Todt organization, and after World War II, via Operation Paperclip or Project Paperclip, he's brought into the United States to work on military underground bases. Now this is just more, okay, here are documents that say there are military underground bases.
Right.
So, I mean, it's a military declassified document.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's beyond anybody's imagination that there's underground military bases.
Right. But this is for the skeptics, right?
Just in general. Right.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everybody knows about, the half-buried missile silos and things like that. I mean, it's not reasonable. It's not much of a stretch.
Right.
Another thing that I found was there are nuclear-powered tunneling pieces of equipment that were patented and designed at Los Alamos Labs in or around Dulce, New Mexico. And the Los Alamos Labs story, of course, brought to light by Bob Lazar.
Yes, That's
another whole thing.
Right.
But for those listening, feel free to look into Bob Lazar, and if he is lying, he has convinced himself that it's the truth. That's my opinion on it.
My opinion, I got a really strong opinion on him. I don't think he's lying. I just don't.
He has told the exact same story his entire life.
And he doesn't really need the money.
He's not getting any money from that. He doesn't even want to be a part of it.
And he's brilliant. He's kind of
absolutely. And so was Phil Schneider. I believe his IQ was like 162 or something in high school.
And people in something like that, when they're that smart, and I just think that there's something to do with intelligence and tracking of intelligence, maybe with family, and if you're going to hire somebody to do something like that, you don't want an idiot.
Sure.
the sad thing about all is that there's idiots that will claim the same type of thing, that they worked underground and stuff, and kind of try to ruin it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It kind of makes me mad, actually. If you're an idiot, find something else to do.
Right.
Right. But yeah, go ahead.
So we mentioned the public judgment of military underground bases.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's not much of a stretch. I listed just a few that I could come up with that are kind of just public knowledge, right? Cheyenne Mountain Complex, which is the backup NORAD base.
Mm-hmm.
Mount Weather, which is a FEMA base.
Mm-hmm.
Raven Rock Site R, which is a Pentagon alternate command center. Also, one of the biggest ones would be CERN. It's underground and it's massive.
Yeah, it's Switzerland. Yeah, they're always up to something interesting. I follow them on media. It's just nonstop. It really is. It's just nonstop interesting. But when I was younger, we drove right past Cheyenne Mountain, and it's kind of amazing how close you can get.
Really?
Yeah. You can drive by and you get these huge gates, and I'm sure it's different now because this was a long time ago, but they got these huge gates.
Right.
Antennas all over this. I mean, you've never seen antennas like this on top of this mountain. It's insane. And
wow.
Gates guards, and it just says without any written that you do not want to go there. Bodies that would say, "Hey, let's go check this out." There's no way. There's just no way. But it's interesting. It's just outside Colorado Springs, right outside a pretty big city, and it's just right there. But I don't see how you can say, well, there's nothing that goes on here. You're not going to, oh, no, there's nothing, It's insane, the amount of antennas and security and very, very large gate. Something else I wanted to throw in here real quick.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I was in West Virginia a few years ago, we went to a place where they where they would fly Congress and everything if everything went kablooey. Mm-hmm. And it's Greenbrier. You can look it up. And anybody can go there. They'll take you a tour through that. And so if anybody's listening and says, I don't know about this underground stuff, I don't know, how you could do this, go there. Okay. Because it will hold the entire Congress. A room, when I'm saying a room, I'm saying basically a house for each one of them underground.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably how deep and how big it is inside a mountain. And you can tour through it and everything. And when I got out of there, I thought, yes, it can be done.
Yeah, there you go.
And that they don't even use it anymore. It's not in use anymore. So makes you wonder what they do now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Some more alleged. Now these are kind of, on the are they disclosed, are they not disclosed type of thing. Mm-hmm. NSA Fort Meade, supposedly acres of supercomputers, like 20 levels under the ground. Los Alamos, which has only really been described in detail by my research by Bob Lazar. Mm-hmm. Allegedly, Camp David sits on top of a massive underground bunker. There are 3 deep underground facilities built in Saudi Arabia for U.S. military use, and a lot of the decisions that were made and, recent conflicts over that way were made from within those facilities. And then China has supposedly, I can't find any information of this, supposedly has said that they have 3,000 miles of underground tunnels to house their nuclear arsenal.
China can pull that off really easily.
Oh, absolutely. They can't build on the surface anyway, so.
Right.
Okay, so I'm looking through, trying to find stuff, and I come across this video. This dude's name is Gene. He is from Colorado. Claims to be a 20-plus year submarine veteran. He gives his email address out and says that you can contact him. I haven't. I don't know. So this video, I think, this is not a real well put together video. Okay. In 2017, though, supposedly, Gene says 12% of the black budget, which was around $68 billion, was being devoted to this underground construction. Now that's an increase over, at least by dollar value, over Phil Schneider's claim.
Mm-hmm.
But in line, realistically. Now, Gene, let me tell you about Gene. He's a super religious guy. So I automatically took everything that he is calling satanic and demonic as a possibility of aliens with attitude, right?
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah.
Calling back to what we started off saying. Gene says the war underground is happening right now. Mm-hmm. Says there's 10,000 active military personnel across all branches involved in this. The video shows a map of some near surface military bases that aren't real deep, entrances, things of that nature. He acknowledges again Dulce, New Mexico. He also mentions Area 51 having tons of underground facility, which is another topic for debate, I suppose, with what's going on or what has went on in Area 51. He goes on to call Canada an underground demonic nest, and I put that in quotes. They're so nice. They won't even see it coming.
I don't know, because I watch and read quite a bit on UFO phenomena or whatever. Of course, it's not UFO anymore, but UAP. But anyway, there's kind of a big disagreements now within some of the I guess you'd call leaders in the UFO community. You have some on one end who are, I would say, more into the religious aspect, and this is good versus evil, and there's evil, very twisted evil, and doing evil things, and wanting to do evil things to the earth, and blah, blah, blah. Okay. Then you have the other end where there are some who are saying no, that this is all fake, that the government wants everyone to believe that they're evil because the government wants to hide technologies that, would make our place wonderful, and they don't want to have these technologies available to companies because the companies would go under. Mm-hmm. Okay, so where this ties into the underground thing is because a lot of this is underground. Especially the evil part is what I've seen. Most of this is underground.
It's interesting that you say that, because we'll tie into that here in just a little while.
Go ahead.
So, going into this video some more, he then shows another map with plotted points that he says these are mid-level DUMBs or deep underground military bases. Mm-hmm. And then he shows a map of the deep bases that he says are ancient. These would be the ones that are just the real dark, evil, going back to what you said, like the bad guys, right? Mm-hmm. So he says they're using fire to burn out a lot of these DUMBs, and they considered flooding, but it would drop the sea level to dangerous levels. He says, again, these deepest ones are the really satanic, dark, deep, evil ones, and the battle down there is horrendous. The oceanic entrances have been blown and flooded, so the maglev trains no longer go continent to continent. And then he shows some videos that are They seem to be from random people that had posted videos of fire coming out of manholes and sewer grates in California.
Ooh.
Initially, I'm like, this guy is a loon. And then, yeah, you see this fire after he talks about them burning out these bases in California.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, well, there's, that's definitely not the only possibility for why there would be fire burning in a concrete tube structure that's filled with sewer gas. However, it swung me just a hair. Okay, I'm not automatically writing this guy off. Okay, so then the meat and potatoes. He then proceeds to list not 1, not 2, not 10, 79 different underground military bases. Some are controlled by the deep state, which has some sort of a working agreement with these evil entities.
Mm-hmm.
And then some have been cleaned out by white hats. Okay. I'm just going to read the list. And when it's noted, I will also note who was in control of some of these bases.
Gotcha.
So it starts off in Alaska. He lists 3 bases. Brooks Range, Delta Junction, and Fort Greely. And he says these have all been cleaned out. Now, it's also worth pointing out that for a lot of these locations, he gives coordinates. And I'm not going to share this video or these coordinates with the general public because I don't want to be held accountable for some crazy person going out and getting themselves in trouble.
Right.
Either supernaturally or just, just regular run-of-the-mill trouble. But obviously with you, I can share this information later on if it's something that you want to see. But
Sure.
Anyway, Arizona. Fort Huachuca. I can't even pronounce it. It's Huacu or Chuca. Luke Air Force Base, Gates Pass Base, the Gia Mountain area, and he says all of those are under white hat control. And then Grand Wash Cliffs is still under control from the dark side. And there are more, believe it or not, in Arizona. We got Green Valley, the Hula Lapai Mountains, Rincon Mountain, Mount Lemon, Page. It goes all the way under the Hoover Dam and Reservoir, he notes. Safford, Santa Catalina Mountains, Sedona, Wiki Up, which is under white hat control, and the Yucca Mountains. Anything stand out so far as something that you're familiar with?
I've been in that area a long time ago when I was young, but obviously Sedona would stand out for a lot of people.
Sure.
If you've ever been there, it's like, I don't know how to explain it, but there's, UFO, paranormal, it's all there. It really is. It's all in Sedona like that. Yeah. So it's not surprising that that's on the list at all.
So then we go on to Arkansas, in the vicinity of Hardy and Cherokee Village. Mm-hmm. So white hat control during Hurricane Dorian. And that Hurricane Dorian comes up a few times. So something happened during this hurricane that they were able to get into some of these places according to this guy. Pine Bluff is still under dark side control. And then we moved to California, where I mentioned the videos of the fire burning and whatnot. Okay, 29 Palms Marine Base. China Lake, and he says China Lake was neutralized, then destroyed by tactical nukes, causing a series of earthquakes. And he gives the readouts from seismo monitoring during that time, and there are 3 distinct quakes, and they're not aftershocks because they actually range in magnitude before they taper off, which is interesting. He says that China Lake, they rescued over 3,000 caged children that were being used for MK Ultra.
Oh.
So another layer.
Yeah, another.
We're not going there. We're not going there.
Right.
Okay. Moving on to California. Darwin, Deep Springs, Fort Irwin, Edwards Air Force Base, all under White Hat control. George Air Force Base, not under White Hat control. Helendale, which is a Lockheed Martin underground facility, allegedly. White Hat control now. You perked up. What do you got?
Well, just Lockheed Martin.
Okay.
But again, another. You're bringing up another subject that could be a whole show.
Absolutely. Okay. Los Angeles, White Hat, 42 levels deep, massive structure. Mount Shasta, deepest in California with 800 miles deep. Kern River, Napa Valley, which is now under White Hat control. Allegedly, they were either these deep state military types or this evil entity sends people out that are wine tasting and kids.
Okay.
Okay. I'm not saying that this guy is telling the truth. I'm just presenting what I found.
Right. No, I'm with you.
Norton Air Force Base, White Hat, Quincy, near Palmdale, there is a UANO facility, McDonnell Douglas, I made a note. Presidio, which has been neutralized with underground burnout. These were fires seen down to Porter Ranch, California. San Bernardino, White Hat, tactical nuke, 2 quakes. Santa Barbara County, Santa Rosa is a FEMA facility under dark control. Sierra Nevada Mountain Complex, Tehachapi Ranch, Unholy Six base. Does that mean anything to you?
No.
The Unholy Six. I didn't look into that, but he made a point to bring it up. Trona, which has been neutralized with the primary China Lake facility. Benicia neutralized with underground burnout. Catalina Island still dark. Chocolate Mountains, Death Valley, Lancaster Base, which is supposedly 42 levels deep. Lawrence Livermore International Labs, supposedly human genome mapping and cloning. Moreno Valley, Mount Lassen, which is under White Hat. Needles, Palmdale were both neutralized with underground burnout. Tehachapi Facility North, the Tejon Ranch, 42 levels deep. Ukiah and Cocoa Leaf Peak. Now we're up to 55 now. Okay.
You talk about the levels deep. I mean, people need to realize how deep that is.
I mean, it's a skyscraper going the opposite direction.
Yes.
And I don't know how many floors the CN Tower in Canada is, but it's the tallest building in Canada by my best guess. And I've been to the top of it, and it's tall.
The CN Tower?
Yes. It's it kind of looks sort of Space Needle-ish. It comes up and then has like a big observation thing on the top and then a point at the very top. Glass floor up there and the observation deck, the whole bit. It's actually really interesting, but I can't imagine that being down instead of up, because you could look from the top and the cars look like ants.
Ooh, here you go. The CN Tower is a 553 mile high, 1,815 and 3 feet concrete. Yeah. So yeah, that's deep.
It's tall. If that were flipped and went underground, I can't imagine. You wouldn't. Would you be able to see sunlight? Surely you would.
No. Oh no.
You don't think?
No.
All right. Well, I've veered off topic, so we'll move on to Colorado.
I can't imagine we did that. Okay.
Alamosa, Book Cliffs near a Rifle, Boulder, EMC headquarters, mind control, MK Ultra, all clean. Colorado Springs, NORAD, 4.5 cubic miles of caverns, 45 underground steel buildings. Clean, under Alliance control, 6 million MK Ultra victims fixed or in the process of being fixed. He claims, now this video, it was from either this year or late last year. He claims that in March that they will institute martial law to clean out MKs that they don't know that they have been compromised.
This March.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which I find very interesting.
I'll let you lead with that if you want.
Okay.
I won't go there myself, but if you want to, I'm with you.
What happened in March, John?
Oh, I don't know. Let me think a little bit.
Is there a reason that you're not in my patio right now?
Oh, yeah.
We are social distancing, right? Right. Now, whenever I got to this, I paused the video and I said, what the hell?
Right.
Because now the needle has moved from being more than vaguely interested, but still thinking this guy's off his rocker a little bit, to over the halfway mark. Like now I'm kind of thinking maybe this guy really knows what he's talking about.
Well,
maybe Gene Colorado has something going on in his head. I'll have to look at the exact date that this video was put online.
Well, yeah, but the thing is when he's throwing dates out there, a month. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know about this Gene guy. But no one in the general public saw this coming, this pandemic.
Right.
At least not until, China, obviously.
Right.
But even then, we kind of scoffed at it.
But here, in America, when the social distancing, everything kicked in, really kicked in.
Mm-hmm.
March.
Exactly. Okay, so we move to Collins, Denver. Denver International Airport Complex, supposedly 5 buildings and 8 cities stacked atop of one another underground under Denver. The lowest is 22 miles in diameter, and they have all been cleaned.
Yeah, that's another topic too there.
Grand Mesa, White Hat, Montrose, Creed, Delta Facility, Falcon Air Force Base, Gore Range, San Juan Valley, Telluride, Warden Valley, all under White Hat control, and Montrose closes out Colorado.
That's all Montrose, Telluride, San Juan, Mountain Range, all within. But anyway, that area is kind of it's a ski area, but it's all well-to-do small town ski area, and it's but Lake City, all those are very small towns, very mountainous, where it would be easily to, hide a lot of things in that area. Interesting because I've been there, so it would be very, very easy to hide a lot of things in that area. It really would. There's old gold mines all over.
Oh yeah.
Abandoned gold mines.
Okay. So we move on to Connecticut. It just says Northwest Connecticut. And there may be, I don't remember off the top of my head, there may be coordinates for that one, I'm not sure. Florida, Point St. Lucie, a massive base taken under White Hat control during Hurricane Dorian and Elgin. And then in Georgia, Kennesaw Mountain, Marietta Dobbins Air Force Base, Forest Park, and Thomasville FEMA Regional Center. Now this is where the video ends, and I'm not sure if he was going to say there were more in other states, but he was going in alphabetical order. So I kind of feel like there's more. So there's a second video, but it's just a complete rehash of the original video.
On that video, did it just end abruptly like there was more?
Yes.
That's interesting.
It literally just cuts it off.
Wow. Just makes you wonder what else is on that video.
I don't know about this Gene guy.
Yeah. Month of March got my attention.
Yeah, absolutely. And that really, like I said, it tipped the scales. I'm not sure, obviously that I believe everything he was saying. There's some pretty extraordinary claims. But the coordinates, the March thing, I don't know. It's too much to completely write off. Not to say that there's not truth in some of what he's saying, at least.
When somebody or some people comes out with dates like that,
but I don't know.
It either is an absolute fail, or there's something to it. And so whenever I hear anybody say something about on this date or month or whatever, and when we come up to that date or month, and if it's nothing, then okay, it's a fail. But if there's maybe a little something there, then you have to wonder.
Absolutely. And it's not often that there's a little something there,
No.
It's actually most likely not something there.
Right. Most of the time.
Yeah, who knows, man?
But when there is, there's this pause. Everyone,
Yeah, exactly. There was a literal pause when I paused the video and I looked up at my ceiling and I said, wait a minute now. Because this is, when I'm going through this was like at the end of March and things had already started happening.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And I don't know. I just don't know.
Yeah.
All of this, that leads us up to, literally right now. But I want to jump in the time machine and I want to go back to 1943.
Okay.
So, 1943, a man using the name Richard Shaver writes into a magazine called Amazing Stories. And in this letter, Shaver outlined his belief that he had discovered an ancient, universal extraterrestrial language. And in December of 1943, his story was published. Guy that published the story, his name is Ray Palmer, received a 10,000-word document called A Warning to Future Man, recounting Richard Shaver's occurrences while working at a Detroit auto plant. And supposedly an accident at work with a welding machine caused him to begin hearing the thoughts of his coworkers in 1932. Shaver then has a future memory, some kind of a vision of him being interrogated by underground mutants who occupied massive underground caverns. He leaves his job, becomes homeless, and states that during this time he would first encounter Nydia, a holographic projection of a beautiful woman. He ends up getting arrested for vagrancy, so he finds himself in jail. And Nydia appears again and mind controls the police to unlock his cell. And he follows her into a doorway hidden in a hillside that transports him deep into the earth, where he meets Nydia and her people, the Tarot. Now these beings, the Tarot, were in a timeless war with the Darrow, which he would find is the name for the same mutants that he had seen in his vision of being interrogated.
Mm-hmm.
Nydia gives him a detailed history of the Earth's past, including some past life memories. 150,000 years in the past, the godlike beings from space, the Atlians and the Taita, settled in Atlantis. In time, the ETs discover the sun is killing them, so they retreat into the Earth. The entirety of the Earth is full of tunnels connecting cities. Eventually, the Atlians and the Taita leave Earth, but some stay behind, and there's a lot of abandoned technology. These beings were mankind's earliest ancestors. Meanwhile, the abandoned cyborgian beings left within the Earth divide into the Tarot and the Darrow. Now, according to this story, the Tarot did all they could to fight off the Darrow and even intervene to protect the surface world. The Darrow controlled the majority of the abandoned technology. They can read minds, teleport, create holograms, induce humans to kill, and hear voices commanding them. They are also responsible for all the tragic events in the history of mankind, including wars, mass murders, etc. The Darrow kidnap and torture humans. They are also capable of space travel and in contact with other savage races. So Shaver spends 8 years living with the Tarot underground, and ultimately the entire group of the Tarot was murdered by the Darrow. Shaver alone manages to escape. So that's his story that he sends in. Now, after his document is received, it's rewritten and published as a 31,000-word story called I Remember Lemuria. It's a big success for Palmer. And in print, he says that it was a true story. Many individuals wrote in saying that they had stories that were pretty similar to Shaver's. This predates the Roswell crash by 2 years, and virtually every ancient alien book by more than a decade. Flying saucer wasn't even a term yet, to give you an idea of when this all supposedly happened.
Right.
Quite a story to come up with. 1945 to 1949, Amazing Stories ran the story. And if the story is true, there are indeed evil, sadistic beings deep within the earth.
Yeah, I don't, you know, there could be, you know, or you could misinterpret, or, you know, I don't know what to think about some of that.
Sure.
Know? The way that it's going now, you almost have, it's sad, but you almost have to pick a side.
Mm-hmm.
You know, who, you know, is this all bullcrap? And, you know, there's some that say that this is bullcrap because if they were evil aliens, they would already taken us over and it's already too late. Which I could go with that.
Yep.
There's some that say that, and the same ones are saying that they want us to believe that because they want us to stay away from it because of the technology we would find. Or,
sure.
You know, we're worried. But when you go back that far, this is before, you know, real high technology. Obviously.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it makes you wonder.
It really does. I mean, when was holograph or hologram an idea?
Right.
I mean, did this guy operating under the name Richard Shaver come up with, he's the inventor of the idea of a hologram? I mean,
yeah, right, yeah.
This is a long time ago.
Right.
I mean, the timing, to me, to come up with a story like this before anyone had any inkling of a proper alien invasion type scenario in their head is...
Well, he was underground conspiracy before underground conspiracy was cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I mean, yeah.
You probably haven't heard of it. It's really underground.
I don't know. I mean, you know, to me, I guess if you're to think, when I kind of try to think logically about it, I would think that with everything that's maybe possibly out there, I don't think it could be all good. I don't think it could be all. That's just what I think personally.
It'd be arrogant to assume otherwise.
Yeah. I just, you know, that's why I question kind of both sides sometimes. You know.
Yeah, sure.
They're all good. I don't know. You know, they're all bad. I don't know. And but it brings up with the war. The war, I mean, in ancient alien theory, you know, of course there was a big war. Mm-hmm. Many years ago. And this is kind of what you're talking about. Some of it's a little bit later and some of it's still ongoing. And, you know, you would think if there was an ongoing underground war that there would be much more that would accidentally come out about it. And maybe there is and we just don't pay attention.
Sure.
Or maybe it comes out in a way, say, in a certain month in a certain year.
Yep.
And it, is sort of a, sleight of hand kind of thing. Hey, pay attention to this over here when actually this is what's going on. I don't know.
The reason that I include this Richard Chambers story is because he's saying, hey, look, there are beings of bad intent that exist under the surface of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the power and the technological devices to mind control on other beings.
Right.
This exactly ties in to the theory from Gene from Colorado, who says, hey, the deep state, the one world government, Illuminati type people are in some kind of an agreement with these evil underground beings, and they're also using mind control to create MK Ultra slaves.
Right.
And this is all interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And it interconnects with Phil Schneider's story and many other stories that I've totally just neglected to even bring up. But
I mean, with a lot of this stuff, there's connections on top of connections on top of connections, honestly. But I think that, with you're talking about with the evil ones that are out there, then they're the good ones are in this war.
Mm-hmm.
And, why don't we know about it? Well, there's some that say, well, it's kind of like a Star Trek Prime Directive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know about that, but I don't know. I mean, if you had some that, if we are mind controlled somehow, which in a way I think we are a little bit.
Sure.
That's another subject for another time. But,
yeah.
If we are, then we would not know it. But if we're not totally controlled, if there's gaps, in the matrix, or and we sort of pick up on little things here and there, and then maybe later on, well, it's not really that, it's this. I don't know. But to go back to I guess the original topic here with all of these connections, you would have to think that there is something there with all of these people, because of all of them that you mentioned, really only one has made kind of some decent money out of it.
Yeah. I mean,
I don't know if you thought about that, but yeah.
Yeah. You're not off base. So all this Richard Chambers stuff back in the late 30s, early 40s tells of all these evil Darrow underground. They killed his hologram girlfriend and whatnot. Take it with a giant grain of salt. It tripled in length. So this Palmer guy has embellished. What's the original message? I don't know. I can't find the original letter anywhere. And it's probably lost in time, decades ago.
Right.
So you might say, John, hey, Jason, how come nobody talks about the Darrow in modern time?
Yeah, I was wondering that.
So, John.
Yes.
Let me tell you about another video I found, John.
Oh, really? Okay.
So this guy, his name is Brenton Salwin. He had a YouTube channel. He has since passed away, I believe, to some form of cancer. I'm wanting to say kidney cancer or something like that. I might even have it in my notes. He tells this story whenever he was a young man. He is living with this close friend who's a Vietnam vet, and he has this falling out with this guy, moves out, and moves in with this vet's grandson, who he's also close friends with. Mm-hmm. They get a place on Elm Street in Whiteboro, Texas. And he puts a pin in the map. It says, this is where this happened. Now, I haven't looked into the location of that versus some of the locations provided by Gene from Colorado, there may be a connection. I don't know. Honestly, I did not look into it any deeper than this. So one morning, Brenton wakes up in his room, smokes a cigarette, puts it out next to his bed, and as soon as he does this, his arm is twisted behind his back.
Ooh.
By somebody. And he's scared to look over to see what it was, but he gets up the courage, he looks, and he sees what looks like a man except for his long nose and this blue coloration around his nose. This man starts laughing at him. He says it's kind of a honky kind of laugh, like just a real bizarre laugh.
Hmm?
This guy has a small wand in his hand, and he sticks it to Brenton's temple. At this point, Brenton sees a little doorway open up at the end of his room and a light coming through this doorway. And then he sees a solid black shadow of a man step into this light. And he says it shifts into some sort of a sinister, crazy-looking shape. Now at this point, Brenton looks away from the nose guy, who's still honking at him, right? He looks back at the doorway, and he says maybe 100 feet away. But the room was only 12 feet long.
Okay.
So there's some sort of a distortion in time and space here during this encounter. Suddenly there's this roaring sound, he said, and it went on and was absolutely terrifying. He thought that if you could see what made the roar, you would just die from fear. He says the guy in the doorway looked towards the sound of the roar and was visibly spooked. The door slams shut. The nose guy lets go and then disappears. So this Brenton guy, he leaves all of his stuff in this house. He never goes back. And the house has since been torn down. So years later, Brenton picks up this book, and it's a collection of stories, okay? One of them is I Remember Lemuria, which is the 3,000 or 30,000 version of the Richard Shaver story. And he's flipping through this story, and he finds some pictures that have been illustrated in it, and one of them is a picture of the Darrow. And it is an exact match to the nose guy that he saw back in Whitesboro, Texas.
Oh, yeah.
An exact match, he says. So, that's weird.
Yeah.
So, Brenton has unfortunately since passed away from kidney cancer. So, I did have that. So, yeah.
You know, that's it. That's quite a story there. Really. I mean, I'm trying to think in my head how. I mean, I suppose you can spin. That's an imaginative story to make up.
Yep.
You know?
Stranger things have been made up.
Oh yes, that's true. Stranger things. But like I said, when you connect everything.
Yep.
And right now I can hear the underground.
Yeah, this train might be a problem, so we're just going to wait for it to go by and I'll edit this out. So yeah, we're talking about this Brenton guy's story and how it's just totally bizarre. And we're interrupted by a train, so we should have edited that out by the time you're listening to this. For those not in the know, I am... Oh, there it is again. I am, I don't know, what would you say, maybe 200 yards from the railroad the railroad tracks here outside the Paranormal Patio.
That's just beautiful.
It's beautiful. It's lovely. So anyway, this Brenton guy, he puts this video out and tells this story, and in watching the video, he seems pretty shaken up by it. And I tend to believe that he believes that this happened, whether it was a dream or something, who knows. But he was shaken up by it. He's either a good storyteller or he believed every word he said.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a book in 1994 that's released called The Secret Cipher of the Ufonauts by Alan Greenfield, who is, or was at the time at least, a practicing ceremonial magician. This whole book is about this code that extraterrestrial or ultra-terrestrial beings have developed to communicate information when they visit and have contact with human beings. And it is a rabbit hole, to say the least.
Yeah.
But in this book, chapter 12, there's an interview with a man named Terry R. Rist, or Reist. And this interview, I can just read a snippet of it. Greenfield makes a little inside joke about Terry R. Reist, his name going through this secret cipher, comes out as a secret master. And he says, so I've been dealing with a secret chief all these years, and come on, you know how I got into this stuff. It was the Shaver thing. And Greenfield says, okay, so let's take this from there. You met Richard Shaver in what? And he said, that'd be like 61 or 62. Mm-hmm. He says, anyhow, Ray Palmer was then reprinting a lot of the Shaver stuff from the 40s about the hidden world, which Schaefer claimed was the survival of an antediluvian civilization that had moved inside the earth, while Palmer and others thought this was more esoteric, something fourth dimensional or, whatever. Greenfield says, I thought it was charming mythology, kind of the demons of the shadow mind versus the self in Jungian terms. He says that somebody told him it was all bunk, so naturally he wrote the guy. And Terry Rist says, well, I read the stuff that Palmer was publishing, plugged into you, and you were by then corresponding with Shaver. You also had a collection, as I recall, of the old amazing stories with the Shaver stuff. He said, no, the collection was later in the late 60s. So Rist says, anyhow, Richard got into some trouble with the law. He skipped Wisconsin and went hiding. Oddly, it was during the lost period when you were the only one who was publishing any new stuff by him, and I got his address and got involved with the little group of dedicated guerrillas who had decided in a most unmetaphysical way to take the best weaponry they could into the caves, as Shaver would have it, and blow the mind-controlling bastards up. Dick had given several previous groups directions, and they had gone. Mostly, though, they didn't come back, but a few did. And I met a few, including one World War II vet, who had been with a team that entered a so-called cave located, and get this, near Dulce, New Mexico, under the Archuleta Mesa.
Okay.
And Greenfield says, isn't that now said to be a joint gray alien human base? And Rist says, you bet. I doubt there was anything there of the sorts in 1948. And this guy and his team, they went through a door down what seemed to be an very old elevator shaft into a city beneath the earth, found the Darrow. This is what I was told anyway. Blew up some machinery, got raided and mostly zombied, killed a few Darrow types and retreated back the way they came in. It was surprised that probably saved their asses, the few that came back. Greenfield says, so you believe the story? And Rist says, of course not, but I figured this could be an artifact of something real. And Shaver gave us a couple of locations right here in the south that he said were entrances to the caves. And Greenfield says, right, I investigated both. One was Brown Mountain, North Carolina. I found plenty of UFO witnesses there, including this guy Ralph something that had claimed he had been inside the mountain and whisked off from there to outer space. Quite a yarn. I went there with Gene and Geneva Steinberg once, and with Jim Mosley and his daughter Betty and Tim Beckley on Christmas Eve in 1968, as I recall. Their other entrance dates back into the Cherokee Indian legend of the entrance to Fairyland Magonia, or whatever you call it. It was the home of the Yumwee Chumdee, the little men, and was near Tallulah Falls in North Georgia. I searched for years for that entrance, up where Deliverance was filmed. And Rist says, you can see it. And Greenfield says, excuse me? And Rist says, the entrance. You can see it clearly in the background in one of the rafting scenes in Deliverance. The interview goes on, and Rist gets into what happened. So the door opens, they go in. They were a lot better armed than the guys in the 40s. said there was an odd lot of them, the recent non-vets, fugitives from RYM. One guy, the only black guy with them, who was then in the Black Panther Party. So yeah, quite an odd lot of people. And then he says there were 10 of them in all, and a photographer who chickened out at that point. He saw the entrance and just left. So Greenfield says, so you go in, and then what happens? So Riss says, practically a replay from the World War II thing. No elevator shaft, but a long downward slope. It got real cold. I still figured that Shaver had been there, that this was some old mining deal right up until I heard the hum. He said that he gathers they were expected. By then, they were in some kind of a cavern, only he would say artificially hollowed out and illuminated by a greenish glow, not from a single identifiable source, just diffused through. And the whole area resembled Shaver's less exotic subterranean story descriptions, and in more recent terms, some of the modern alien base stories. We were confronted by these small grayish beings, humanoid only in the technical sense, and one of the guys said Darrow and started shooting. He had an M1 rifle, if I recall. One shot, and the little gray being was illuminated in blue and just gone. Which goes back to Phil Schneider and the blue beam. Then he says, let's see, there was a sound. He felt his own gun getting hot in his hand, and he dropped it. He turned to run and was confronted by two of these little gray-skinned guys with a net. Whatever had convinced him that his rifle had gotten too hot to touch apparently had not focused on his pistol, a vintage Luger, and one of the little net holders received the last surprise of its life. It kind of exploded, and the other one dropped the net and ran up the slope with wrists suddenly in pursuit. When we got beyond the lighted area, though, it was just gone. I heard gunfire and explosions behind me, and that god-awful hum, and I continued, pistol in hand, looking around wildly to go back the way I came. Only 3 of us ever made it back to the surface. One of them died a year or so later of leukemia, I think. He was only about 24 or 25, so maybe there's a connection. So, that ties in with Shaver, with Schneider, and with this Brenton guy, who also dies of cancer at a fairly early age. He was in his, I think, 30s or 40s.
Right.
And the blue beam thing from Schneider, and I don't know, man.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, so going back to, the 40s and all the way through here, it would be interesting to see, to go back even further than the 40s, because there are some things back further than the 40s, actually, even farther back than the 1900s. So, and then you could keep going farther and farther back, and then you could tie it up to even March. Okay. But what I was referring earlier to you is that there is a theory that this is all basically the military, or sort of maybe a black ops military throwing using mind control to make you see that these are evil aliens. Okay.
Okay.
I told you that. I mean, I'm not agreeing with this at all. I'm just saying
Right.
The UFO universe, that there are some that are claiming that this is basically a mind control type of thing for us, is to see that this is that they're all evil, all bad, all, if you go underground, this is bad. You don't want to go underground here. You don't want to you don't want to go here because it's bad. Bad things happen to these bad people that go there from these bad aliens. Okay. And, so I don't know what to think about that. It kind of throws an extra twist into all these other twists that are connected.
We could go one step further here. If you wanted to apply yet another conspiracy theory. Well, I mean, sort of just an offshoot of the Gene from Colorado thing is that the Illuminati being involved, the deep state wanting a one world government. Well, what would be one of the easiest ways to get civilian support for a one world government, John?
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not wanting to go a certain direction because I look at this as your baby, and if you want to go there, okay. Want to go there another time, okay, that's fine.
I mean,
yeah, that's sort of what I'm getting at.
The government comes out and says, hey, there's these evil aliens that are taking over the earth, and all of our countries need to band together. All the governments need to band together. Like Independence Day, man. The movie Independence Day.
That's a very current theory.
Yeah.
I'm talking like this year within the last month or two. Okay. Is that that's the theory. And then at some point, an announcement's going to be made that, yes, we know that there are, some craft out there, unidentified flying phenomenon, right? Mm-hmm. And, aerial phenomenon. But they don't have our best interests at heart. We don't know what they're after, but we don't think they have our best interests at heart.
Yeah.
And so we'll see.
I hope not. I hope we don't.
Right.
But, yeah, I mean, it's a plausible theory. And, yeah, I didn't want to take this into the conspiracy world so much, but it's so evident looking at it.
Right.
So the focus of this shouldn't be all this one world government, Illuminati, conspiracy theory.
Personally, I have a hard time with that myself.
So whether or not that is something that is or is not happening, let's set that on the shelf.
No, I'm with you.
We're dealing with the paranormal topic, the paranormal aspect of all of this.
Right.
Are there aliens in the ground, and are we at war with them? Do you think that this is plausible and or possible? And where do you sit on the truth of it?
Well, it's possible. It would make sense as to where our tax dollars go.
Yep.
Right.
That's something I automatically thought of.
We do spend quite a bit of money on whatever $20,000 hammers, I guess.
Huh.
And I mean that would make sense. So yeah, and if let's just go with the fact that okay, this is happening, and so how would the governments of the world deal with it? With the public, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people are freaking out now because they can't get their hair fixed.
Right.
So how are you going to throw out there? And no, by the way, we've been in an underground war for hundreds of years with people that's not from our planet that lives deep down in the earth. You couldn't come out with something like that.
I think
honestly, here recently, I've been very convinced that they couldn't. I can see why they couldn't come up with something like that.
Yeah. I mean, if anything, these past couple of months have shown me that, yes, I was wrong. The people of Earth are not ready to hear this story, whether it's true or not. I have been a big proponent of that's nonsense. We could handle it. We deserve to know. And now I have been face to face with the fact that we cannot, in fact, handle it, and we maybe don't need to know.
Right. Well, no, I'm 100% with you there because I was thinking about that. I'm thinking, I mean, this is crazy, and people are kind of going crazy, and it's a big deal. I'm not making light of it. It's a big deal, but
absolutely.
But could you imagine? And oh, by the way, while this is going on, we just wanted to let you know that we've been in, this thousands and thousands of year war with aliens that's been going on, and we just want to let you know that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, it would be, I was with you, I would think, look, just let the information out. We can handle it. No, we can't.
Nope, that has come and gone.
Right. I think it's I think it's possible. And if you take even the littlest bit of it, well, you know, do you think that there's underground military bases? Yes, I think that 98% of the people out there could agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, how far underground? Could you go really underground? Could they? If you could go that far underground, then could there be things kept from you? If you are, say, from, you know, another galaxy or whatever, and you came here thousands and thousands of years ago, and you wanted to do good things, bad things, whatever, and you did not want to go to your galaxy all the time and travel interdimensionally, and you wanted to stay on Earth where it would be closer, and you wanted to have a base on Earth, where would you do it at? I mean, I'm just throwing that out there as a general question. Where would you do that at? Under the ocean, under the ground, you know, if you happen to do that, and say that militaries, you know, of the Earth found out about it, they were questioning it, and they found out about it many, many, many years ago, and you was here for whatever reason, good or bad, or just to study or whatever, would you not have to work with that military somehow?
Right.
You know? And if you are the said militaries, then, you know, especially in the 40s, you know, or even before, you know, and the way, especially the way governments have, you know, have thought, you know, would you want to reveal it? And what would you think about revealing it? You know, what would be the ramifications of revealing that? And I'm like you. I would have thought, reveal it. We can handle it. But you know what? I was wrong.
Absolutely.
I was wrong. I you know, anybody asked me, I'd say, no, we can't handle it.
Not now.
No. And you would think in 2020 that we could. But no.
We should.
We should be able to handle it. But we can't.
Nope.
I've got to get my hair frosted. What can I do? You know?
Yep.
That's what I think. I think that, yeah, it's plausible. It's possible. It's possible to hide things from people for, you know, obviously it's high. Obviously, you know, it's possible to hide from people.
Okay, so on a scale of 0 to 100%, 100 being this is real, 0% being this is absolutely, you know, bonkers. What percentage are you sitting at on the scale? These things that we've talked about tonight specifically.
Well, we talked about a lot of things. I will say that I will go with all the way 100% that there are, let me think of the wording, that there 100% that there are, alien to human contact going on underground.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that it's all bad, evil. I'm not saying it's all good. But I will say that I'm 100% that it's because there's too much. In my opinion, there's too much that's been, you know, kind of thrown out there, and it's gone on for, you know, even longer than the 40s. I mean, much longer than that.
Right.
Much longer than that. There's just too much out there, and it's not going away, and it hasn't been proven necessarily true, although it's pretty close in a way. It hasn't been proven wrong, and I know that there's people out there that are saying, yeah, but you know what kind of person you are, thinking, well, you can't prove it right, but you can't prove it wrong. But if you take into account what the Navy released with UFO footage, which I think is mind-blowing,
mm-hmm.
that they would do that. Why would they do that? You know, they're not denying. They're saying, yeah, we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And the people reacted was like, okay, well, let's check out Facebook. I mean, people,
We're pretty desensitized to video of things flying in the sky.
yeah, but people need to pay attention who released this.
Yeah, and it gets overlooked.
It's not, John Q. Public, with a YouTube channel that released it.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's there. It was there. And the reaction of the people was interesting. It was all over the news. Yeah, okay. Well, that's interesting. Yeah, okay, I don't know. Well, they're saying this, okay. And then, boom, it disappears, right? It's like, okay, we're not going to talk about it anymore. No big deal.
Yeah.
Just the U.S. Navy releasing, that we don't know what this thing is, that is flying so fast that we can't catch it. And we don't know what it is. It's coming from under the ocean, by the way.
Yeah.
But we don't know. Just let it go. Okay.
So I'm sitting at 85%.
85%. 85% what?
To the Phil Schneider, the Gene from Colorado, and the guy from Texas, Brenton, and the topics that I read and the research that I did, I believe I would say at 85%. There are aspects of each of those things that I believe 100%. But as a total sum of the topic tonight, I'm at 85% believing what I read was true.
I'm kind of with you there. I'm just on the 100% that there's something there, with the underground. And with the thing is like with looking at people and stories like this, things get changed through the years.
Yeah, sure.
And things get left in, things get added in, things get twisted around. So I can see your 85% for sure.
I mean, and not even just over the years, but immediately. I mean, you had the contradictions between Phil Schneider and Colonel X.
Right.
In the Full Highway book, almost immediately. I mean, within 10 years. You have the contradictions of the 10,000 word document sent to Ray Palmer being turned into a 30,000 word story.
Right.
You have immediate changes there being made. I mean, before it's even published, it's changed. It's like any good story.
Well, it's like the history of any country.
Exactly.
It's going to change, and then later we're going to find out. Oh, well, they changed this. Well, this was really true, but we didn't put it in your history book in high school. Yeah, It's just like anything else.
Yeah. So that's where I sit. That's where you sit.
Mm-hmm. I think we definitely brought up some other future topics for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely a lot of things. A lot of pokers in the fire, so to speak.
Yes.
Well, with that, John, I am feeling really good about this, and I want to thank you for joining me via Skype tonight amidst the pandemic scare.
Yes.
Not exactly what we had planned, but I think it's worked out okay.
Yeah, I think it's worked out really well, actually.
So I am looking forward to where we go from here, and I hope that everybody listening at home on their phones, in their car, or wherever, I would say at the gym, but you can't do that right now. So thanks for listening. I've been Jason.
I'm John. Thanks, everybody.
Until next time, keep the fire going.